So I won't be taking any questions during the presentation, but we will have a question session at the end. If you don't have paper or pen, I'm prepared. Grab them. Grab a paper, whatever paper you need, grab a pen. Write your questions down, don't forget them. Are we on, Sammy? Okay, this afternoon I am going to introduce you to juice fasting. I will explain why you should consider juice fasting and give you a step-by-step plan to successfully juice fast. I will share my first-hand knowledge about juice fasting. I've actually been juice fasting on and off for over 40 years. I currently, as someone who can get the discounts at places, I'm on no prescriptions and stuff, in case anybody's, you don't have to write that one down. How old is this guy? Or is he actually got any health? You know, like most of you, I'm in and out of health, but there's probably some principles I've kept pretty regular, and some I'm in and out of. But I've been off and on juice fasting for more than 40 years. Now, the reason this is going to be today is kind of a special day because the person talking to you, me, I am currently in a juice fast. I stopped eating on Monday. At the end of the day, Monday, that was it. So I haven't had food Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and today. I have lost, unbelievably, usually on a juice fast I lose a pound a day. I've lost actually 12 pounds in 4 days. So I'm going to be able to answer your questions from personal experience of more than 40 years, plus I'm doing a juice fast right now. So I can give you all the little, nitty-gritty about it, any question you have. So please write them down, and I'll be happy to answer any and all at the end. Of course, as with all health regimens, if you have medical issues or concerns, seek the advice of your doctor. I'm not a doctor. I play one at home sometimes, and then my wife wants to hit me upside the head, but she does the same thing. So let's bow our heads, please. Heavenly Father, we ask that you open our minds to be receptive to getting closer, moving closer to your plan of health. We do understand we can't be of much use to you if we harm ourselves or end our lives early by not following health principles. Open our mind to accept health principles. Open our minds that we become willing to control our appetites. Give us the power and wisdom to do these things. And we ask you to bless the presentation, what should help the speaker, and help everyone with the questions they need to make this a success. We give all the thanks and glory in Jesus Christ's holy, righteous name. A whole lot of what I'm going to be telling you today comes out of one of my favorite books, How to Keep Slim, Healthy, and Young with Juice Fasting. There is a plan in here that we'll be talking about. Not everything comes from the book. Some of these things come from my firsthand experience, and I'll tell you which is book and which is what I do. Sometimes they're just a hair different, but that's from experience. So let's talk about the definition of fasting. Fasting, according to Encyclopedia Britannica, is abstinence from food or drink or both for health, ritualistic, religious, or ethical purposes. Fasting is not starvation. Starvation is outside of us. It's something that we might be facing that soon on the news lately is food shortages. The wife and I were at Walmart, and we were surprised. There was like 4 packs of eggs. We got over by the chicken. This was a few weeks ago. There was not a piece of chicken in the place. We keep hearing a lot about that lately. Food shortages coming. And I guess the question I would have for anybody is, if you can't give up a meal, what are you going to do when the food shortages come? Might present a problem. Starvation is the involuntary absence of food. It is neither deliberate nor controlled. Starving people have no idea when and where the next meal will come from. Starving is different than fasting. Fasting you do for one or two reasons. We discussed all the examples from the Bible where when there was a challenge or when someone needed to get closer to God or a child died, they fasted. Those fasts aren't necessarily planned, except in general that you have a plan in your head that if something happens I got to go to God. So if you have God in mind, you're thinking about fasting and prayer. So in a sense it's a plan, but when something happens, boom, like David, his child was sick, he's going to die, let me petition God. Boom, he's fasting. He's not saying, well, I'll fast, Friday, give me a week. I know the kid's dying, you just do it. Now, the fasting we're talking about is on purpose. We're going to have a plan, and we're going to stick to the plan. Now, fasting has been around in Western medicine since the beginning. So, Hippocrates, we could place him around the time of Ezra, when he was sent to restore order. 460 to 375 BC. Ezra was like 460 BC. So this goes way back, way back. He was considered the father of modern medicine. He wrote more than 70 books. He described in a scientific manner many diseases and their treatment after detailed observation. Before him, people dealt with health through like superstition. They thought people were sick because somebody hexed them or something. Hippocrates, father of modern medicine. He established medicine as a science. And way back then, more than about 2,500 years ago, he said, to eat when you are sick is to feed your illness. Now, humans don't seem to notice, but animals do. I don't have a pet, but I've heard about this many times where the pet, he'll get sick, you can verify that from your pet. They'll stop eating. Somehow they instinctively know, I'm sick, I don't need any food, I got to let my body do some work on its own. Philip Paracelsus, he pioneered the use of minerals and other chemicals in medicine. He was the father of toxicology. He said, fasting is the greatest remedy the physician within. And closer to our time, Benjamin Franklin, writer, scientist, statesman, diplomat, printer, publisher, political philosopher, and I think one of the founding fathers, if I'm not mistaken. Scientist, the kite, electricity. He said the best of all medicines is resting and fasting. So fasting goes back in even science, 2,500 years that we know about. It goes back in religion, at least that we know about, to Moses. So we're talking 4,000 years. Fasting is something that it's been out there forever. But something happened in Western medicine, and stories went around that there were people who got lost out in the wilderness. They were hiking or whatever, and they died after 3 or 4 days of no food. And this became the common belief. If you miss food for like 3 or 4 days, you would die. Everybody believed that. Not everybody. I'm sure there was a few. It's just like God's truth. There's a few. There's probably a remnant that said, fasting's good for you, even though everybody thinks you'll die. Trust me. Sure, Doc. A Dr. Indran, he directed the first Swedish fast march in 1954. So most of the Western world at this time is thinking you'll die if you miss food. He says, what can I do to prove this theory wrong? So he set up this march with 11 men. They walked from Gothenburg to Stockholm, a distance of over 300 miles in 10 days. So if you do the math, that's 30 miles a day. Now, I walk typically 4.5, 5 miles a few times a week. Depending on the pace, that can take 1.5 to 2 hours. Let's call it 2 hours. Divided into the 30 is 6. They potentially were walking 10 to 12 hours a day. That's a lot of walking. So in addition to fasting, he put them under some very heavy stress. The participants fasted throughout the march. They didn't eat any food at all. They didn't drink any juices. They didn't take any drugs, tablets, or vitamins. Nothing but plain water. They weren't juice fasting, they just had water. After the 1954 march, Dr. Indran said, this fast was the first in the series of experiments to determine the effects of total fasting under severe conditions of stress. If we find out that fasting will not cause any damage to the body, but will, on the other hand, exert a beneficial, revitalizing, cleansing, and rejuvenating effect on bodily functions, it will supply invaluable information for healthy as well as for sick people. The healthy will be encouraged to fast in order to rejuvenate and increase vitality, and the sick to cure their ills. This experiment proved to the world the preventive and the therapeutic potentials of fasting. Dr. Carl Otto Alley, one of the leading biologically oriented doctors in Sweden, and who was actually one of the participants of the fast marches, he said, the march clearly showed that man can live for an extended period of time without food, even accomplish a hard physical effort while fasting. Remember, they're walking 30 miles a day, somewhere 10 to 12 hours walking, no food. The general expressed feeling among participants was that they felt stronger and had more vigor and vitality after the fast than before it. Now, this was a big deal in 1954, and a lot of reporters came from everywhere. And they started interviewing people halfway through the march, and they said, how do you feel? You're probably getting pretty tired, you're probably half dead. They're like, well, I feel better than I did when I started. The reporters didn't believe that. They wrote articles that said, these poor men, they are like men who have jumped off a top building, and they're halfway down, and you ask them how they're doing, and they say, oh, pretty good so far. That was what the common belief was then. It wasn't even believed. But at the end of the march, they survived and improved their health with no water, vitamins, just water, and under heavy stress. And they survived, and there was actually hundreds of thousands of people waiting for them at the end of the march. One lady fasted for 249 days on a juice fast, what we're talking about today. This was at the Stabhill General Hospital in Glasgow, Scotland. Fasting was clinically tested with remarkable results. One 54-year-old woman with a painful arthritic condition and grossly overweight was put on a fast for 249 days and lost 74 of her 262 pounds. As a pleasant side effect, her arthritis cleared up completely too. So a fast can go on for a long time. I generally, when I do these fasts, I usually do 2 weeks. Dr. Arola, he recommends 7 to 10 days, especially at the beginning. Now you could do less. Somebody could do 5. A fast, scientifically isn't considered a fast until the body starts autolysis, which we'll talk about shortly, meaning that the body starts eating itself. And it does that in a scientific way. It doesn't, God made these bodies, and it's not going to eat your brain first. You don't have to worry about that. It will eat the garbage. It will eat the bad cells. Obviously, you have a plan, and you come out of the fast. And we'll be talking about all that. Now, this march was actually conducted again in 1964, this time with 19 men instead of 11, and achieved the same results. The point here is that fasting is safe. A lot of people, they think if they miss one meal, there's going to, oh my goodness, what's going to happen to me? I've heard this from people before. I miss a meal, I have headaches, It's like, are you sure? Have you ever tried it once? You might live. No questions to the end, please, let's stick with that. As I suggested before, the main causes of disease and aging are to be found in the processes of cell metabolism and cell regeneration. First, as the famous Canadian stress doctor Hans Selye said, life, the biological chain that holds our parts together, is only as strong as the weakest vital links. You are as young or as old as your smallest vital links, the cells. The aging begins when your normal process of cell regeneration and rebuilding slows down. This slowdown is caused by the accumulation of waste products in the tissues, which interferes with the nourishment of the cells. Now, many of you have probably heard of something that's talked about commonly today called leaky gut syndrome. Leaky gut, this is leaky gut. Your cells get toxins and waste in them, cannot function properly, can't take in and hold the water they need and the nourishment, and this this waste, this accumulation of waste, the cells not working properly, this waste spreads through the body, through the intestines and such, and you poison your system. There are a lot of people that would probably say, I feel okay. If they went and got a test, the doctor might say, you got an issue with this and this, which is why personally I always recommend seeing somebody for blood work regularly, so you do know if you have any of these issues. But we're introducing juice fasting. According to Dr. Arola, it's the number one healer and rejuvenator. And let's talk about why we want to consider fasting. During a prolonged fast, after the first 3 days, we're considering like 4 days of prolonged fast, your body will burn and digest its own tissue by the process of autolysis or self-digestion. And as I mentioned, your body, God made it, it knows what it's doing, it will burn up the garbage, which is why you get healthier during a prolonged fast. During fasting, while the old cells and diseased tissues are decomposed and burned, the building of new healthy cells is stimulated and speeded up. Something that we can't explain happens during fasting. As you get the waste out, everything starts working, it speeds up and works faster. During a juice fast, the eliminative and cleansing capacity of the eliminative organs, which are the lungs, liver, kidneys, and skin, is greatly increased, and masses of accumulated metabolic waste and toxins are quickly expelled. Now, you might say, well, what do you mean mass? Well, something that struck me, it is generally believed that 1/3 of all body impurities and waste are eliminated through the skin. More than 1 pound of waste products is discharged through the skin every day. Did you ever imagine that? 1 pound of waste products through your skin. In addition to its eliminative work, skin has many other vital functions. The body actually breathes through the skin, absorbing oxygen and exhaling carbon dioxide, which is formed in the tissues. So we will talk about a way to work on the skin today too, to help us when we fast. Juice fast affords a physiological rest to the digestive, assimilative, and protective organs of the body. And finally, the juice fast exerts a normalizing, stabilizing, and rejuvenating effect on all the vital physiological, nervous, and mental functions. Your head will be clearer if you do an extended fast. You ever have that thing, you walk in the room and you say, why am I here? And you start looking for clues. People's names. A lot of that, what we call brain fog, is accumulated waste in our system, in our brain, in our cells, toxins and waste products. A juice fast will help us clear some of that up, and will help us get closer to God, because our thinking will be clearer. And we won't have it's surprising how much energy the digestive, we constantly put food in there if we're a regular American. This thing is working all the time. It takes a lot of energy to digest food, and it never gets a rest, which is why Ellen White recommends 2 meals a day and intermittent fasting, which she suggested 150 years before it became popular today. And there's a lot of other things that fasting will help you with. If you're hooked on something food-wise, if you fast a decent period of time, you'll get rid of some addictions. And you'll actually start liking good food. Now I looked up some, they'll come up shortly, some of our early pictures from some of you from school. You might see yourself on here. That's not one of you guys, but do you find yourself looking for food, scrounging around? I need to find something to eat. What am I going to eat? Fasting can help you with that. Do you never have enough to eat? The plate always seems empty. We got to add some more. Fasting can help that. Do you look at something like a Brussels sprout and say, didn't God mean to make that taste like something else? Did he make a mistake? Maybe he should have made it taste like cake. I think that's Kathy's baby picture. That proves she's been a blonde forever, too. Fasting can help you with that. Do you just not get this vegetable thing? You don't understand it, they just don't appeal to you. Fasting can help you change your taste, what your taste buds crave. If you do a proper fast, your body will actually crave good things. Like for myself, the problem is I always think, I'm just eating good stuff, so I could eat a little bad stuff. Well, the bad stuff will win in the end. It always does, because it has addictive properties. Sugar's addictive. From meat, what do you call that acid? The uric acid that gives people gout and such. That is addictive. So meat's addictive, sugar's addictive. Fasting can help you with that. But rather than the vegetables, does nice colored cupcakes and flavored drinks, does that sound like something that you're having? Like, is that your baby picture? No? Or, just the whole thing. You just don't understand it. I want to eat what I want to eat, and that's the end of this. I would rather have some ice cream. Fasting can help you with that. This is my baby picture here. Are you stuck on chocolate? Fasting can help you with that. That's me, yeah, that's me. We are going to talk about the tools. We know fasting's safe. People have done it under stress conditions. They've lived through it. It's safe. We know why we want to do it, because we accumulate waste and we accumulate toxins. A way of thinking about this would be your car. Every 30,000 miles, I take my car in. And the funny thing is, all the fluids that you had put in it, they're darker. They have stuff in them. And if you don't get that stuff out of there, well, your engine will just stop working. The oil gets like thicker and dirtier. It won't run on that forever. And it's the same thing with our bodies. A lot of people, I just can't get rid of weight anymore, whatever I do. Well, once the cells aren't working right, you have to get rid of the toxins to get the cells working right. So it's safe. We know why we need to do it. Let's talk about the tools that we need. This tool, dry brush massage, has to do with our skin, because as we talked about, the skin, a pound of stuff comes out of there a day. And what happens is the skin gets filled up with our dead cells. So this, and Dr. Arola calls this $1 million health secret. You get it for free today. This will get rid of them dead cells and help you to get the toxins and eliminate the waste out of your body. And I put this one first because if you decide, I just can't fast, this we're going to do in conjunction with fasting, but this is something to do anyway. This is something that you could do every day would be good for you, or twice a week, or once a month, or at least once a year. Something. This is a technique you want to keep and put this in your toolkit to use always. You get a natural bristle brush with a long handle, a loofah mitt, a coarse bath glove of twisted hog's hair, or a natural plant fiber vegetable brush. Now for me, I use what they call a loofah. Loofah. Starting with the soles of your feet, number 2, brush vigorously, making rotary motions and massage every part of your body. Brush in this order: first feet and legs, then hands and arms, then back and abdomen, chest and neck, and then scalp. Now, if you can't write all that down, I do have copies of that for anybody that wants to take that home with them. I know that's a lot to write as I'm speaking. This will have a powerful rejuvenating influence on the nervous system by stimulating nerve endings in the skin. So it does a few things. It doesn't just clean the bad cells out, but it stimulates the nerve endings. Will help to prevent colds, especially when used in combination with hot and cold showers. And we'll talk about that as we go on. And will rejuvenate the complexion and make it look younger, fresher, and more velvety. Now, this is one of those things I forget about, then I do. I thought about it a few weeks ago and did it because I had got the sniffles and I felt congested. And a thought hit me in the head. It said, when you dry brush massage, you breathe better. I did it, showered, and I'm like, I can breathe better. Because we actually breathe through our skin. Our skin actually takes in oxygen, and not probably the same process as the lungs, but sort of the same thing. Then what's the other thing comes back out? Oxygen in. We breathe through our skin. So this does help you breathe better. Now the benefits derived from performing a dry brush massage: it will effectively remove the dead layers of skin and other impurities and keep the pores open. Will stimulate and increase blood circulation all over the body. Will stimulate hormone and oil-producing glands. A lot of benefits, and just quickly. So you'd start with the balls of the feet, you work in circles, and don't rub the skin off, and maybe get a lighter brush to begin with and get harder bristles as you go along. But circular movements, and go to circle towards the heart. So in other words, here I'm going this way, here I'm going this way, bringing everything to the heart, working from the soles of the feet to the top of the head. And I have a different brush I use for the head. Haven't been doing this one as much as I should lately. I am going to get that back as a regular, at least couple times a week into my toolkit. The next thing we'll need is a juice faster. A juice faster, I don't know a lot about the models out there now. I have one that's like this, exactly this one. This thing does one job. That's to take something and to have juice come out. Doesn't do anything else, but it does it quite efficiently. You put a carrot in there or an apple, all the fiber, everything will be in this top compartment here. There's a blade in here. You remove this out, put something in there, let's say some apples or carrots. This is a long, you'll push the vegetable or fruit in there, and it'll come out here. This thing has a pretty powerful motor. It spins. All the garbage, for the most part, will end up in here. There's a blade at the bottom. It's not even very sharp, but at the speed it moves, it just turns these things into liquid. I mean, it doesn't turn them into liquid. It will take the liquid out and leave the fiber behind. We don't want a blender because a blender will mix up the fiber and everything. You are eating in that case. You are not juice fasting. So another option is if, well, you think maybe I'm going to try this one time. You can get fresh juice, and you want to use fresh juice, at some of the health food stores. They have bars. Sunrise in Lansing, just south of the expressway, you can go there and get fresh vegetable juice, fresh fruit juice. I don't know about Whole Health Foods, the new chain. I don't know if they do that or not. Balms might do it. Places do it. You can buy it. But it's a good investment. At my home, we use it just for making a drink for dinner sometimes, carrot juice. It tastes great. Better than a lot of things one could drink. And a change from water, which is what we usually drink. So any kind of juicer, or get the juice from someone that makes it for you. Our next tool that we're going to be using in our plan is vegetable broth. Vegetable broth, we are going to take 2 large potatoes, unpeeled, chopped or sliced to approximately 1/2 inch pieces, 1 cup carrots, shredded or sliced, 1 cup red beets, shredded or sliced, 1 cup celery, leaves and all. I'm sorry, a little behind there. And 1 cup of any other vegetables. Recommendations would be beet tops, turnips, turnip tops, parsley, cabbage, or a little of everything. However, a satisfactory broth can be made with only potatoes, beets, carrots, and celery, consisting of approximately 50% potatoes, 20% carrots, 15% beets, and 15% celery. If you're not getting all that, it's a lot. I believe I made copies of this too. And this, we are filming this for YouTube, so you can go back. How to prepare the vegetable broth. Use stainless steel, enameled, or earthenware utensil. Fill it up with 1.5 quarts of water. Slice the vegetables directly into the water to prevent oxidation. Oxidation means the vitamins will go away in the air to some extent. So you want to go directly into the water. Do not peel the potatoes, the beets, or the carrots. Just brush them well. Cover and cook slowly for at least a half hour. Let stand for another half hour. Strain, cool until warm, and serve. And you'll drink a cup of this at a time. So you've made a whole pot, so you will After it cools, you drain that. It's nice if you have a glass container, but what is plastic will work. Put it in the refrigerator, cover it, and each day you'll pull that out and have a cup. And this will last you for a week or so. Our next tool is vegetable juices. Recommended vegetable juices are carrot, celery, red beets, cabbage. I have never used cabbage. We use carrot, celery, red beets. The celery, if you've ever juiced it, it has a lot of water. So we use less celery because it dilutes it, Beets, very powerful. You don't need a lot of them. They'll change the color of whatever they get into. So we use mostly carrot, probably next would probably be celery, and then red beets. If you try cabbage and it's good, let me know. Now, when we get to the plan, the recommendation is going to be to dilute these with water. I never have. Our next tool that we're going to use is fruit juices. Recommended: apple, pear, pineapple, grapes, lemon, orange, grapefruit. We use mostly apple and pear. We just tried pineapple this morning, and I tried some grapes this week. I've never used lemon, orange, and grapefruit because they don't make sense to put in this juicer. You can't slice them up, but there's not much there, so I never have ever used lemon, orange, or grapefruit. It's in the book. It's up to you what you use. We're considering not using the grapes anymore, or even the pineapple. The grapes added to apple and pear is just delicious. The problem is, with the juicer, for some reason, grapes and pineapple, not being solid like apple and pear, is pretty much what you get out of the juicer is just really clean. Generally, we strain everything before drinking it. You don't want to be eating, you want to be juicing. But when you use pineapple or grapes, you really find yourself straining because for some reason in the juicer they just don't, you've had the same experience, they just don't work well with the juicer. They taste wonderful. Apple and pears, 100%, but you are in charge of your own juice fast. Now the one you've been waiting for. This is very important and probably one of the scarier things for people. Whoa, enema, what's that about? Well, what's going to be happening after 3 or so days is that because you're not taking in food and have fiber pushing stuff through there, your bowel movements are going to stop. And if you don't take the waste out of there, you're going to poison yourself. It's going to go through your body, and it will end up harming you. You will poison yourself because that stuff's got to go somewhere. And the preference is you take it out of there with an enema. It's actually not difficult, not painful. You just do it slowly and the first time. Don't hurt yourself. No pain. Of course, they say no pain, no gain. You have to get the toxins out. Now, Dr. Irola, he recommends actually a cleansing fruit cleansing diet 2 to 3 days before the fast of fruits and vegetables. And the day before the fast, either taking 2 enemas and or purging yourself by taking something. I think castor oil might be one. At the end, please. Castor oil. There's a couple other, and you can make yourself. And we can look in the book if anybody has that. If they decided they want to do that, I'm not a big fan of that. It's quite. I mean, that takes stuff out of you. It's very good to cleanse you, but stuff will you'll be tied to the bathroom for a while. With enema, it may not be work quite that like that does, but you can control it. You won't be in there as long. That will be uncontrollable. If anybody's had a colonoscopy, you know what I'm talking about, because they will give you something to clean you out. So you have to end up, I don't know which one you've used, but there's ones where you have to drink a couple quarts of stuff. A couple quarts. And there's one that's even smaller and it feels even more powerful. But you are tied to that. You might as well just chain yourself to the toilet because you'll be in there. So, first thing you're going to do is purchase an enema bag with a rubber hose and nozzle. Some of you might not know what that is. Simply looks like this. There's a bag, there's a hose, there's a nozzle in here attached to the hose, and there's a little clip that will help you shut the water off. You'll fill the enema bag with between 1 pint to 1 quart of lukewarm water, about 99 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's about body temperature. I use the quart because, as you'll see in a minute, we lose some water when we take the air pressure out of the hose, make sure all the air is out of the bag. You lose some water there, and if you can't hook yourself up quick enough, you'll lose some water. So you won't end up with the whole quart, but I start with the quart. Add a few drops of fresh lemon juice or a cup of chamomile tea. However, the enema can be taken with plain water. I use lemon, pure lemon. We buy lemon, cut it in half, squeeze it right there. Usually though through a strainer. You don't want the seeds and everything in there, and they'll come out. So just get the juice through the strainer, a few drops. Sometimes I cheat and use a few more drops. I'm thinking that would help with the alkaline of the body, having that in there. And then you just put that in a baggie, seal it up, put it in the refrigerator. 1 lemon will last you, as long as you fast. It'll go quite a while. Use some Vaseline, oil, or other lubricant on the nozzle to make insertion easier. Some Vaseline is very inexpensive. I think you can get it at the dollar store, or as it's coming to be known, the $1.25 store now. Let the water run for a moment to make sure there's no air left in the tube. So in other words, you have this bag and you're going to place it higher than you are, and this hose coming down, you're going to let the water run. This is just a second or two till it's flowing and there's no air in there. Stop it. You could put the Vaseline on this insertion tip. I do the shaft and the top, and then you are ready to hang the bag, and you're ready to go. Almost. I think we have another step. The best position for taking an enema is on your knees. Head down to the floor with enema bag hanging 2.5 to 3 feet above the anus. Now, if you can retain the water for a while and do not feel forced to empty the bowels at once, which, if you haven't taken an enema before, this might be the situation. You might feel like, I got to get rid of this water right away. Once you've done this a couple times, it's not an issue. You can hold the water a little bit. You may lie on a bed or soft rugs for a few minutes and let the water do its dissolving and washing work before letting it out. So what is actually recommended in another book by his is that you would lay like on your back at first, and for 20 or so seconds, gently but firmly massage your stomach. What this is going to do is get rid of that stuff that's clinging to the walls of the colon, the large intestine. You'll go from your back to a side, to your stomach, to the other side. Each time massaging, loosening that stuff up so it will go out. When you do an enema, for those that have never done an enema, when you get the first bunch of water comes out, or the second, and you think, oh, I'm done, maybe not. Hang out, plan on a couple minutes, because the colon is not a straight drop through the body. The colon is zigging and zagging. So water will get, you're in a position that when you put it in there, your body's like this, so the water's going up into the colon. So it could get caught up in there. Usually 2-3 minutes, all the water's out. It'll just save you a trip from running back and forth from personal experience. 4 indispensable tools for success. Positive mental attitude. We need that every day anyway. Have confidence in what you're doing. So I've already demonstrated to you that it's safe. People have done it before. We need to have confidence if you go into this. This is something that people have been doing for 6,000 years. Fasting, juice fasting is just a scientific way of doing it safely, and they've learned this through years of experience in spas and such in Europe. They were doing this for years. It was there before it was here. Fortitude, to follow the plan from beginning to completion. If the plan breaks down at any point, even at the end, the breaking the fast, if it breaks down, you're going to lose the benefits of the fast. If you come crashing out of this fast, eating a big meal the first day, you consider yourself that you really didn't fast. You're going to ruin what you've done. You have to follow the plan from beginning to ending to get all the benefits. And never, ever do we want to forget prayer and thankfulness. Thanking God for this body that's just so miraculous that it takes all the abuse we give it. But today we're talking about something that can undo some of that abuse that we've given the body. You might say, well, did they do this, in the Garden of Eden? Well, back then, there weren't a lot of toxins. The earth was a different place earlier. Today, there's so many chemicals. You buy food, you don't know if it's had radiation. There's stuff in the air, stuff in the food, stuff in the water. You didn't deal with that 6,000 years ago, probably even 3,000 years ago. A lot of these modern things that have come up, they hurt the body. The body has a hard time getting rid of them. So scientifically, we're going to help our body to deal with all these things that were just unknown until recently, the last 150 years or so. So we have all our tools. So let's talk about the fasting program. Anything highlighted dark is like mandatory. Everything I'm going to give you is from the program, and we'll talk about each thing. The things I didn't highlight, I don't sometimes do them as often, and I'll give you some reasons for that. But the enema, first thing, enema, while you're fasting. And you'll be making a decision when you fast. Are you going to start taking enemas the day before the fast? I typically wait because the body will still be having bowel movements for 2 or 3 days for me. So I typically wait. For this fast that I'm on right now, I started taking enemas yesterday. So yesterday and today, and I'll do it every other day of the fast, and maybe even, into breaking the fast. I'll probably do it for at least a day. After the enema, dry brush massage, followed by hot and cold shower. So we discussed the dry brush massage in depth. That's something Dr. Irola recommends every day during the fast, probably every day. Many times when I've juice fast, I've been working. Nobody ever knows I'm fasting. I don't tell people because what happens is, on a side note here, if you tell a lot of people who don't understand this that you're fasting, they will discourage you. They'll start studying you closer. You look a little peaked there. You need some food, don't you? You do, right? Let's go eat. I'll buy it. That's just human nature. That's how it goes. Now, as I told you, I fast generally 2 weeks, and I did that working. I wouldn't tell the workmates. Nobody would know. But people will know. If you do it long enough, people will know, because all of a sudden they'll look at you, maybe if you did it 10 days to 2 weeks, they'll look at you and say, "Did you lose some weight?" "Oh, yeah, a couple pounds, Decide, depending on who it is, if it's somebody with a right attitude about it, I could share what I do for their benefit. But we don't want people that will discourage us. This is something you can do quietly and nobody will know. And hence, while I was working, I didn't always do the dry brush massage daily. But I try when I'm fasting to do it as often as I can. If you're in a position where you can follow this program, you're not working, and you could do it by the book, that's best. Now, a hot and cold shower. Some of you may already know what that is. For Dr. Irola, what he describes, what he's asking you to do, is to take a hot shower for 3 minutes or so until you feel warmed up. Then take a cold shower for about 10 or 20 seconds. Repeat this 3 times, always finishing with cold as you can stand. And then give yourself a brush massage that will warm you up thoroughly. So the hot and cold shower is another technique that you can do outside of juice fasting that stimulates the skin, opening the pores, closing the pores. The cold water, I believe, actually opens the pores at the end. 9 a.m. and your 9 a.m. might be 10 a.m. Okay? I'm putting it out the way it is in the book. We work it out the best we can. and I don't always do the herb teas, but I always do the fresh pressed fruit juice and vegetable juice and the broth. But he recommends a cup of herb tea, warm, not hot. Recommendations are peppermint, chamomile, or rose hips, or if you have a particular ailment, you can pick something else out that might work for you, but an herb tea, not a caffeine tea, not Lipton tea or something. This would be something specific for health. Come 11 a.m., mandatory, not 11 a.m., but mandatory, is you start getting your juices. He recommends in the morning a glass of freshly pressed fruit juice, diluted 50-50 with water. I don't, we got some, the yawning's cracking me up because I got 3 hours of sleep. But the juice fast woke me up, keep that in mind. Diluted part, I haven't tried that. It's up to you. You can experiment both ways, and we can talk about that at the end in the question section. But for me, I take the juice just like it is, and I usually have a glass. Well, this morning, my wife let me know that that's a lot of sugar, and since you don't add water, you get half a glass. So I had half a glass this morning. Very tasty. Early afternoon. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed one. The walk or mild exercise or sunbathing. Please don't forget about exercise. Exercise, at least walking. You want to move the body and let the insides, move and get rid of the waste, loosen stuff. You want to, he gives the options of mild exercise, walk, or sunbathing. Now, if you're working and you can't do that in the afternoon, when I was working, I did it in the evening. Something, at least walking. Now I'll tell you this. Yesterday, just so you know from my own experience, so typically I walk 2, 3, 4 times a week, 4.5, 5 miles. I did that yesterday. On my 4th day of fasting, I walked 4.5 miles. And on my walk, I did my exercises. Carlos knows, sometimes I do some chin-ups and pull-ups. And I did the same amount of everything that I did before I was fasting. Fasting does not weaken you or anything. It will weaken you if you go into it with the attitude that you're scared of it. And I don't know. You're scared, you're going to... Don't do it until you're positive about it. It won't weaken you. You'll have the same strength. Now, if I fast for the longest I've done this is 6 weeks. After 6 weeks, maybe... something can change. When I was lifting weights, I still lifted weights while I was fasting. You can still do your regular work. There may be some exceptions to that because there's so many different kinds of jobs, but typically most people can do this working or not working. Early afternoon, cup of freshly made vegetable juice or a cup of vegetable broth. So you're going to have some flexibility here, because in the evening you're going to have the same choice. So you could do the broth in the afternoon or the evening, or the vegetable juice either afternoon or evening. For me, I usually do the broth in the afternoon and the vegetable juice in the evening. I could see it would make sense to me to do it the other way, to do the vegetable in the morning and then the broth at night, because the broth is going to have the least amount of sugar and stuff. And the broth is, just the water and the nutrients from the vegetables. So it's not pulling out all the sugar like the juicing is. So the broth at night would make sense to me, your choice. 1:30 to 4, rest in bed. Well, if you have a life that is, you don't have a lot of things to do, you might be able to pull this off. In my life, I barely get a nap, and I know some people never get a nap. I've fasted many times without the rest. So for me, that's optional, but it is part of the program. About 4 o'clock, a second cup of herb tea. If you're home, if you're at work, you might miss out on that one. You get home, you could do this before work, depending on what hours you work, but you need to get in some walking, some mild exercise. He mentions therapeutic baths here, Epsom salts in the bathtub. That helps pull stuff out of the body. But some walking, walking. I can't say enough about walking all the time. And last but not least, our glass of diluted vegetable or fruit juices or a cup of vegetable broth. Now, the critical part of this thing is actually going to be breaking it, breaking the fast. We know breaking fast from breakfast. You're going to start eating again. The rules for breaking the fast are coincidentally the same rules we should have for day-to-day eating. Do not overeat. That should be a rule over the time, but especially during the fast. Eat slowly and chew your food extremely well. That should be a rule for every day, but it's a very important rule for breaking the fast. And 3, take several days of gradual transition to the normal diet. And I'm actually going to give you a diet from the book. If this is where you really have to, by now, if you have the right attitude, you're going to feel better than you did when you started. You're going to feel strong. You're going to feel some changes. And if you come out of this properly, you won't be craving all the things you craved before you started. That's what I'm expecting to happen to me in a week or so. But critical, this is where you can blow the whole thing. You can invest a week and then hit the buffet the first day. You've shot all what you did. Your body needs to come back gradually. So, on the first day, in the morning, 1 whole apple. For lunch, eat a small bowl of raw vegetable salad. Note that I didn't mention putting Thousand Islands or some of these concoctions that have 200 calories to the tablespoon. Raw vegetable salad. And continue the usual juice and broth menu. You're still taking in the nutrients from the juice and the broth. Now, these instructions here are for fasting 7 to 10 days. Well, it could be 5 or 6 days even, but he recommends 7 to 10. And on the second day, wrong way. On the second day for breakfast, soaked prunes or figs with the soaking water. I use figs, the big, I forget how to pronounce the name, but the big ones, and I put them in the soaking water the night before. And in the morning, they've absorbed water and are nice and plump and very tasty. For lunch, small bowl of fresh vegetable salad for lunch. No garbage on it. Dinner, vegetable soup made without salt. 2 apples eaten between meals. Continue the usual juice and broth menu. 3rd day. Again, if you've only fasted 1, 2, or 3 days, there's none of this. Your body didn't start the autolysis, so you just fast and move on. I typically fast a day a week. I've been doing that the last year. Just as a exercise, and it wipes out 15% of your calorie intake in one swoop. Breakfast, I'm sorry. Day 3. For breakfast, as the 2nd day, but add a glass of yogurt and a few raw nuts. For lunch, increase the salad portion and add a boiled or baked potato. No, not a ton of sour cream on it, I'm sorry. Dinner, a slice of whole grain bread with butter and a slice of cheese with soup. We are finished with the juices at that point, and come day 4, you may start eating normally, not really, because he wants you to adhering to a cleansing macrobiotic diet. Because what's happened is you have your body functioning better now. It's dealing with these, it's eliminating the bad cells faster, it's making new cells faster, everything's working better. You want to eat fruits, vegetables, grains. You want to stick to a cleansing macrobiotic diet. Now, if you fasted longer than 10 days, the break-in period should be extended 1 day for every 4 days of fasting. Whoops, wrong way. So, if you made it through that, you are going to experience some benefits. You will have lost some weight. I've lost 12 pounds so far on this fast. You're going to improve your concentration. You're going to prevent insulin resistance, prevent Alzheimer's, reverse the entire aging process, and extend your life. We will have brought our bodies to functioning closer to what God intended. The diet God gave in the Garden of Eden was fruit of the trees. Okay, we want to get back to that some. There was a reason for that. Now, I will take any questions, and we will use the microphones because we are filming this, sending this out. So I'm assuming there's going to be some questions. Anybody that knows they have one right off the bat? Everybody's got it down pat?
I got comments.
Comments would be fine. Not yet. Let me get back to the front. Anybody else know they have a question or a comment? Wait, hold on, let me finish passing out microphones if we need any more. Okay, Carlos, I think, was first. Or you know what, Carlos? Dornita was going to say something way earlier, and I interrupted you. Go ahead, Carlos.
When you're going through the second or third day,
Mm-hmm.
the soups or whatever you said you didn't take, was that warm or lukewarm, cold, or how
I think just what you would normally use, warm. He doesn't give specifics about that. When you, no, I don't think it would hurt you if it's nice and hot, no. But as a rule, everything, when he does describe a temperature during the fast, like with the teas, he describes lukewarm. So, keeping consistent on the fast, sure. Dornita? Could we do? I can't hear you. Is this one on? Let's turn this one on. Everybody won't be able to hear you. I'll take that one.
Have you ever considered the sea salt flush instead of enema?
I am not familiar with the sea salt flush. No.
It's like a reverse enema. You take the water in, and it actually cleanses you out like an enema in about an hour.
So that would be considered what he discussed, we just discussed it briefly, was his recommendation is the day before the fast begins to do something to clean yourself out. And you're saying that sea salt could do that?
You can do the sea salt flush because it gives the effect of an enema, but it's reversed. So you're just drinking it, and it cleanses you out like an enema.
Okay, I want to make sure that's on. Are you getting that? Is she on?
Nature Sunshine
Hello.
says that to do, they have the
Okay.
mineral that said it'll give you
Stop,
ironic.
stop, please. Stop, please. We want this, we're recording this.
Okay.
Make sure you put this close. We want everybody to, we don't want them to miss this formula. Go ahead, Dornita.
Yeah. So you can do a sea salt flush, and it does the same effect. It's you take it orally, and it cleanses you out like an enema if you do it the other way.
How much salt? How much water?
It's 1 teaspoon of sea salt.
Teaspoon.
And then well, let me get the recipe. I have to get the recipe if you have another question. But it's water, warm water, sea salt, and you put a little lemon juice in it just to help it be more palatable to take it down. Because otherwise it's kind of salty. But it gives the same consistency as blood, so then it doesn't go into your system. It just goes straight out. It comes right in and goes straight out.
Okay, that's great to know. Thanks for adding that.
I just wanted to agree with her because Nature's option has that. I learned that under Dr. Shasky about cleansing. Also, I took medical missionary when you were talking about the enema, and I learned from this lady on Grant Street, she added garlic, and I didn't know until I started taking this course I'm taking now. Kills parasites and what have you, takes down fever. If you boil, she boiled the garlic and put it in the 5-gallon colonic. There was something else I'll remember in a minute. Oh, the hot and cold hydrotherapy, I learned that from medical missionary. Everything they said was right, 3 minutes, but they told us 30 minutes to 1 minute for cold. And if you're diabetic, it should just be a contrast instead of hot, hot, and cold, cold, because a diabetic cannot stand that.
Okay, well, thanks for adding all that.
You want the recipe?
Some of these things that we're doing for the juice fasting is the plan, and these things help us with the goal of getting the toxins out.
Correct.
So I'm thinking garlic. I mean, you can put garlic in your shoes and walk around, and garlic will go in your body and work. Trust me, you put it in your shoes, walk around, you'll breathe, you'll smell like garlic. Have you ever tried that?
I take it for mosquitoes.
If I was going to do garlic, I would probably choose putting it in my socks rather than taking an enema to get it in there. But if you had parasites, and you know you had parasites, sure.
You got parasites. Everyone does.
Everybody has parasites. I saw a hand somewhere there. Can you get a microphone, please?
I just wanted to let you know I really appreciate your presentation because it speaks to a lot of what I've learned and what I use for myself and also with others. You know, especially like with the enema. I myself have done it and also helped others with the enema. And it's a very, very powerful tool to use when you're detoxing or if you are sick. Like lemon is a very powerful in an enema because when it goes in, it has like a scouring effect also to help really pull them toxins up out the walls of the intestine. It's like a cleanser. And so from experience with using that, I've seen either what you would even call, like our arteries get clogged up with different, with cholesterol and a lot of yucky stuff, even seen, with myself included, where what you would call mucoid plaque come out. Now, when your body discharge, also when you go back the follow-up, you'll see it because it's long and it's like, oh my goodness. So it's a very powerful tool. And what you were saying about the enema, part of, I've decided to do self-supporting ministry and also go out with this message also. As I've helped people, I've just ordered I just received a large package of enema bags. So as I go out to minister, you know, and knock on doors, people are sick. The Lord tells us they're waiting for us. The world is a lazar house of sick people, and they're just waiting for us to come to help them, not only with their health, but bring the gospel, because everything you just gave to us is the health message. And these are the same protocols and procedures we use to help ourselves and those in the community who needs help. So if anybody, you know, if you don't have enema bags, I can help guide you through it, you know, and I have them at home. If you would like them, I have no problem sharing.
Okay.
Can I respond to her first?
Yes, go ahead.
'Cause I appreciate what you said. And you made me think of a couple things. Now, once you're fasting and you're doing these enemas, you'll be surprised what comes out of you after even 2 weeks. You'll be surprised. You're not putting in clean water and getting clean water out because your body's working. You're getting the waste out of there. Now, also I wanted to mention for people who, for whatever reason, just won't do this, there are some medical things, health, we'll say at the health food store. You can get a compound, and I forget the name of it, but this one thing will actually pull some toxins out of you. Now, for the last few years, rather than juice fasting, I've been doing a cleansing with cleansing shakes through a nutritionist. And that's how Dornita noticed one day, oh, what are you doing? You look a little different here. And I hadn't told anybody what I was doing, but then when she asked, I told her, you know, that I was on this special diet from the nutritionist and taking these nutrition shakes. And it took quite a bit of time, and it also took quite a bit of money. Okay, my wife Lisa and I did it a month, the last 2 years, 1 month each time. And it can cost some money, you know, $800 for 2 people. If that's an option for you, but what I've been thinking lately is, I'm remembering back to juice fasting, and I'm thinking maybe juice fasting is better. That thing pulls out some toxins, but the juice fasting and the whole focus on cleaning your skin, cleaning the stuff out of your colon, I'm thinking the whole package works better than even what I was doing with the nutritionist. So I'm trying it now. And again, as I said, I'm down 12 pounds. And so far, have as much energy. If I hadn't told you I was fasting, nobody in here would know. Don't tell anybody. Go.
I discovered with your presentation of juice fasting, it is a safe way to start the body to heal. From my experience, because I went to a class, Medical Missionaries. I don't know if you all know Gladys Brown, but she was, yes. Well, we did 5 gallons, and they taught us, I have a calemic board, and I have a 5-gallon thing that I had to make. I did a few people. Doctors know if you would clean your colon, and I learned this from Gladys Fry's daughter-in-law. She worked in a hospital, and she told us, doctors know if you clean your colon, 90-something odd % of diseases will be gone. Now, I learned from this lady on Grant Street in Gary. She gave colonics. She gave 15 gallons because you are only scratching the surface with an enema bag and even with the 5-gallon. And how she performed it was, the first one was warm, really warm water. The second one was with lemon juice in it. Then the last 5 gallons was the garlic, and they was cold because you have to, first, the hot water is going to expand the cold. The next one, you know, is warm, but the last one is to constrict it, because if you don't do it right, you can hurt yourself, and doctors know this. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, well, especially with that, what's the name of that? Colonics?
Colonic.
That's to me, that's quite a bit more serious than an enema, because you're putting a lot of water in there, and I think you're actually like forcing it in there, if I'm not mistaken.
No, it's
Need you on the microphone, though.
not for us.
Thought came to me about with the juicing and adding water. The juices in the vegetables in liquid form, they can be very powerful, and especially depending on how toxic the body is or how sick you are. And so the reason for adding water also is because it's just that powerful. Like, for instance, I love to do carrots, celery, and beets, but beets is a very powerful it has very powerful detoxing effects. So you're just adding water to help dilute it, but you're still going to get the benefits, but it's just because of how the strength of the fruits and the vegetables are, how strong they are.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. I didn't get into a lot of it because this is a big book, and then I have read other books too. But the juices, there's a lot of nutrients, and if you ever read the book, I don't know if you can get it, it's out of print, but these juices have specific nutrients that are helping you, so you're building the body up. So it's a complete program.
I just want to we have that book too, so I've used it quite a few times in the past to fast. So one thing to remember, though, if someone has not done it, the first 3 days for me, I notice are really tough. Like you said, people won't know you're fasting for the first 3 days, depending on what you're coming off of. So if you're getting away from sugar, if you're getting away from caffeine, coming down, or nicotine, whatever it is you're coming down from, you will be sick for the first 3 days. And the thing is, that's not a negative. It's because your body, all these toxins are coming out. So that's actually natural. I think sometimes people get nervous because you do start getting sick, that you think something is wrong, but actually that's just the toxins that are coming out of your body.
Well, that's a good point, and I'm glad you brought it up. Now, another thing that could happen, that's not happened to me so much, but
Right.
but I know from the reading that you could, let's have a cold or something, because these toxins, all this stuff coming out, you might go through a little something. If you do, it's natural. Just fight your way through it and continue with the program. Your body is working on something there. Another thing that could happen, because there's so many toxins coming out of your body, you do want to be doing the showering every day and everything, because some of these toxins, they don't smell so good. You could have bad breath. You could have, so you want to be aware of those things. They aren't negatives, but there's something you need to be aware of. And that's just what happens because there's so much waste in us. That's our problem. Well, most of us in this country are overweight, and these fat cells and stuff, they'll collect all kinds of stuff, toxins and such. Any other questions or comments? Okay, Kathy, let's get your microphone. There you go.
I was just wondering, if I just want to do the water fasting, like where I still might eat a meal a day, and then for the rest of the day I just do water, or I do water for a couple days, fasting that way, is that still going to take the toxins out of my body?
I'm going to say no because you said you're eating a meal a day, right?
Well, okay,
Your
but all right.
body, oh, go ahead.
Okay, but then, so say if I just drink water for 2 days, that would be a fast. Would that remove toxins from my body without doing the other stuff?
Well, the key here to this plan is that the body doesn't go into autolysis until after at least like 3 days. That's when your body starts eating up the bad stuff and pushing it out, and everything starts working more aggressively to get the waste out. 2 days of water fasting might do you some good. That's not like juice fasting. Juice fasting, the reason there's juice fasting is because in these clinics in Europe and such, they discovered that juice fasting was superior to water fasting because it added the nutrients. Okay? It didn't add the bunch of calories and everything, but it added the nutrients. And the nutrients help you to your body to work better, to get rid of the stuff. And like the one example I gave you from the book, some stuff will get healed. And to heal things, you need nutrition. So that's why the whole idea of juice fasting came about. The nutrition was the key. That there was some nutrition, there was the nutrition in there, a lot of nutrition in there, that would help your body recover from illnesses and to rebuild. Now, people survive water fast. I gave you an example. That's okay. Something will happen. But my understanding is not as efficient as juice fasting.
Could you do like can you do like a juice fast for 1 day and then
Well, the
maybe a water and
key-
eat a meal and then,
Well, as I told you, I often just take a day and don't eat. And all I have is water that day. Okay? I did that last week on Thursday. I knew I was going to go into a fast, and my brain said, you're fasting all next week because, you got the presentation, and then you'll be up fresh on everything. And then the other part of my brain said, you're going to use that as a reason to cheat? No, make yourself take the day off. So I didn't eat Friday and didn't get the pig out until over the weekend, but I made my body do that just as an exercise, but that's not juice fasting. That's just not eating in a day. It does a lot of wonderful things. It gives your digestive system a rest, which the thing I had put up here at the very end, one spot past the end here, is where Ellen White talks about that. Rest needed by the stomach, intermittent fasting. You can intermittent fast. There'll be benefits, but it's not the same as a prolonged juice fast. The body goes into autolysis and changes take place. Yes, Dornita.
I forgot to say thank you. This is a great presentation too. Anita, thank you for bringing that out. I was wondering, would you be willing to put together a team of people who may be interested in maybe us doing this together as a group? Like people who are interested in, because the information you gave, maybe we can kind of come together and.
The second that motion, I was going to ask the same question. And this is where I'm coming from. And I speak loud enough, so I don't think I need the mic.
No, we want it on so people at home have it or people reviewing have it.
Gotcha. If you have never done this before, you are somewhat, you still do not know what to do, even despite of the presentation, right? So the suggestion has been made by Dornita. There may be some of us who want to do it, but need a little coaching. And you seem to have done this many times, and others of you. And I think your suggestion is great. If you really want to help the church, get together and do that, and then invite us to come, those of us who are interested. I'll be the first one to say, yes, I'm interested, because it's about time I help this poor body of mine. I'm about to peg out, and I still haven't helped it. So please, you know, if you guys want to do some real missionary work, this is where we start.
Yeah, I would consider coaching. Now, I am one speaker at a time. One speaker at a time, please. That's me right now, though.
I just
Sorry.
want to
No,
add
no,
just-
Stop, I'm talking. Wait 1 minute, please. Thank you. Coaching, sure.
Way more than coaching. I mean, we actually get a team.
Well, I'm doing one right now, so I won't be ready to do one in a month.
No, that's
But-
not what I mean, Tom. If there are people today, let's not wait, we keep putting things off. If there are people today who's interested in juice fasting and you've not juice fast before, maybe a group of us can get together and we can follow the directions that you gave us and work towards doing it. And set a day and we could do it together, and then we are supporting one another through it. Especially if you haven't done it before.
That
You know,
sounds like
just so you
good.
can kind of understand, you know, there is a process, but we can do it together.
That sounds like a good idea. I'm sorry for keeping
I just
you
want to
waiting.
add one thing
Yes, ma'am,
about the juice fast.
please.
You haven't mentioned about diabetics. Juicing is concentrated sugar. So what she was saying about adding water, that's a contraindication that needs to be addressed, just like I said about the hydrotherapy for diabetics. So diabetics have to do something a little bit different. You have to do that because then you run into trouble.
And I addressed that early. People with serious conditions, I mentioned from the get-go, should talk to their doctor. And you don't have to, and if you have a concern about the fruit juice, you have vegetable juice twice a day. You don't have to have the fruit juice. That's the recommendation, that's the plan, but if you're really concerned about the sugar, then you could do vegetable juice both times. Unfortunately, carrots, which they're very nutritious and they end up being part of the vegetable juice, they're high in sugar too. So, but this isn't something that we made up. This is something that they perfected in Europe through the health spas, which were many of them in Europe.
But it's not Adventist, though, is it?
Say again?
When you said cheese,
I didn't understand the question.
I said, but the study is not based on our principles as Adventists. We don't do cheese.
Cheese?
Cheese. At the end of the...
When you said how you break your fast, and if you want to be plant-based, then you just have to do it.
Yeah, I gave you many examples of where I made substitutes. And you can make substitutes. But just make reasonable substitutes. An apple for a pear is reasonable, or a vegetable in place of a fruit is reasonable. Plate of spaghetti in place of something, not reasonable. Ann?
That
It's on. You don't have to touch
is.
it.
Can you hear me?
If you touched it, you turned it off, probably.
Can you hear it now? Okay. This basically is what I do. I've been doing this for at least 2 or 3 years now. I only eat 2 meals a day. I used to think that I would not survive, or I'd have to have some little snack in between, but I found I do better, I feel better if I only eat twice a day. And it's at least 5 hours between my meals. So just wanted to share that. So to me, it's like I'm fasting every day in a sense. Not doing that, but
Right, intermittent fasting.
I start out my day with 3 glasses of water, and in the middle of that I'm taking a supplement, and then I keep taking supplements for a while I'm having my worship and doing that kind of thing. Then eventually I have my breakfast, but before my breakfast I do my rebounding. And lately I've been taking our dog for a walk if the weather's decent before I do the rebounding. So anyway, that's what I've been doing.
Thank you. Any other questions before we go? Why don't we say a prayer and finish up then? Bow our heads. Heavenly Father, we ask that you help us to control our appetites, help us to understand our bodies better, help us to apply what we're learning to our lives. As we mentioned earlier this morning, Father, we are recognizing that life is getting more challenging. We want to be facing life awake, not falling asleep. And we can only do that if we're in good health. And we can only serve you if we're in good health. Give us a desire to do that. Give you all the thanks and praise in your Son, Jesus Christ's holy, righteous name. Amen. And thank you for your attention. Appreciate it.
Me and my mother, we fast 4 days, no food, no water. No food, no water. By the time we got to the 4th day, I didn't even want food. And I was going to go again, but I was warned that that's dangerous. But yes, we did. But after that experience, I have not fasted.
Water is a tricky thing because you can go without food for a long time. Water, you do need water. And when we see like what Moses did, 40 days, no food and water, came back down, went up and did it again, we know God was helping him because 40 days with no water.
But we did 4 days. We sure did, me and my mother.
It is.
Is there any other